TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom ve'erev tov, good evening. Welcome to our daily TV7 Israel News Bulletin broadcast from Jerusalem. The IRGC pledges to continue to launch attacks against commercial vessels transiting the Strait of Hormuz until the United States essentially capitulates to its demands. The Qatari Foreign Ministry says negotiations between Iran and Oman are at a critical juncture. And Colombia announces its decision to recognize Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps launches between 2 to 5 unmanned aerial attack vehicles towards commercial vessels transiting the Strait of Hormuz on a nightly basis, the vast majority of which are successfully thwarted mid-air by the U.S. Navy. These attacks are not reported on by the U.S. Central Command in what is construed as a deliberate attempt to avoid efforts by the Ayatollah regime to escalate the situation by preventing freedom of navigation in the strategic waterway. Instead of ratcheting up the attacks against the IRGC, U.S. naval forces continue to enforce a deliberate naval blockade on all Iranian ports, with U.S. Central Command announcing that it had disabled the steering gear of Panama-flagged MV Villanova as the cargo vessel attempted to transit the Gulf of Oman and violate the U.S. blockade against Iran by sailing toward an Iranian port. CENTCOM further highlighted that as of August 11, the American forces have redirected 55 commercial vessels attempting to run the blockade, disabled 3 non-compliant vessels, and boarded 2 ships, while also stressing that U.S. forces operating in the Middle East are highly vigilant, lethal, and ready. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump asserted overnight that he does not trust the Ayatollah regime, which continues to lie about practically everything. Trump further stressed that the United States Navy is the only one that controls the Strait of Hormuz, all the while insinuating that at some point, the United States military may have to launch a significant attack against the terror regime in Tehran.
Iran is going fine, going just absolutely fine. We totally control the Strait of Hormuz. We have control over it. Nobody else, only us. Our Navy is unbelievable, and things are going great for our country. I don't trust Iran. Why? Are you saying I trust Iran? I'm the last person to trust Iran. They've lied to me constantly. We have total control over the Hormuz Strait right now. They don't have control. We have total control. We own it. And at some point, maybe they'll do something and then they get blown away. But right now, we're in a very good position.
It is worth noting that U.S. partners in the Gulf are increasingly uneasy with the current situation, in which there is neither peace nor war. According to senior diplomatic advisor to the Emirati president, Anwar Gargash, the region cannot remain indefinitely in a state of neither war nor peace. Its stability and the future of its people require clarity in vision and direction. Separately, according to Qatari Foreign Ministry spokesman Majid al-Ansari, negotiations between Iran's Ayatollah regime and the Sultanate of Oman have reached a critical juncture.
Negotiations are currently at a critical point, and we greatly appreciate the efforts of our brothers in the Sultanate of Oman and support all endeavors to reduce escalation. As you know, we are precisely engaged in that, and we follow the advance of talks currently between the two sides, between the Sultanate of Oman and Iran.
It is important to reiterate that the Islamic Republic of Iran continues to insist that they do not view the Oman talks as attached to the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz.
The reopening of the Strait of Hormuz follows its own specific mechanism and has no connection whatsoever to the negotiations between Iran and Oman. Whether the Strait of Hormuz is reopened depends on the conditions under which the Islamic Republic decides to reopen it, and that, in turn, depends on the extent to which the United States accept the conditions set by the Islamic Republic of Iran.
While the IRGC claims that it will continue to attack commercial vessels transiting the Strait of Hormuz, demanding American reparations, the unfreezing and release of all Iranian funds immediately, and the lifting of the crippling naval blockade, among others, Iranian residents and business owners in Tehran are desperate for some economic relief, with the economic situation throughout the country in freefall, despite regime efforts to project limited impact.
We are stuck in limbo. It is as if we have been magnetized and are just fixed in one place. Things need to be made clear. It has to be one thing or the other. When the war was going on, the situation was not like this. Our customers have dropped sharply under these no war, no peace conditions. Our sales have fallen. As one of my colleagues says, we have no sales at all, not even enough for a shop inside the bazaar to take in 1 million tomans. This is a very bad situation for shopkeepers, and it really is not good. But whatever happens, we will not accept humiliation.
In other news, Colombia, under its newly elected president Abelardo de la Espriella, announced a decision to recognize Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights, becoming the second country to do so after the United States of America. It is important to highlight that the Golan Heights, which was previously held by Syria, was utilized by consecutive Syrian leaders to attack Israeli communities adjacent to the previous border. Consequently, after Syria invaded Israel during the June 1967 Six-Day War, the Israel Defense Forces managed to repel the Syrian forces and, upon instruction from Jerusalem, conquered the strategic mountainous region, ending regular attacks against Israeli communities in the surrounding of the Sea of Galilee. Since then, Syria launched several attacks against Israel's Golan Heights in concentrated efforts to regain the territory, to include during the October 1973 Yom Kippur War. And after it was determined, following extensive assessments and deliberations, that there would be no scenario in which Israeli communities could live safely with the strategic territory under Syrian control, Israel's parliament, the Knesset, passed legislation extending Israeli sovereignty to the Golan Heights in the early 1980s. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu praised Colombia and its leader for the historic move.
You remember the Israeli saying, the nation stands with the Golan, right? So, today, the nation stands with Colombia, because the president of Colombia, our friend, recognized Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights. I thank you, Mr. President. Come, I'll explain to you why it is important. Come closer. This is the Sea of Galilee. This is the Golan Heights. This is Syria. This is Lebanon. This location is vital for our security. And the flag of Israel waves here, and it will continue to do so, because it is our land. We had foundations in this place during the period of the sanctuary cities of our forefather Moses, and there are dozens of synagogues there, which are being renovated from up to the 8th century AD. But today, it is ours. It returned to our hands, and it will always be that way. And the fact that President Trump recognized our sovereignty here was the first important move. And today, Colombia is the second move. The people stand with the Golan. The people of Israel stand with Colombia.
The decision was announced by Colombia after Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar visited and met with President de la Espriella in Bogota last week. Meanwhile, Syria has released a statement condemning Colombia's decision to recognize Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights, alongside additional condemnations that were released by Damascus's patrons, to include Turkey, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, and Qatar, with the latter referring to the Golan Heights as occupied Arab territory. It is worth noting that in a recent interview with the Muslim Brotherhood's Qatari outlet, Al Jazeera, Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara, whose curriculum vitae includes commanding Syria's offshoots of both al-Qaeda and the Islamic State prior to conquering Damascus, has voiced his aspirations to achieve a security arrangement with Israel and in a future date, in exchange for the Golan Heights, to go as far as willing to sign a peace treaty.
We are trying to reach a security agreement with them by involving a large number of countries and exerting pressure on Israel to adopt a balanced policy toward Syria. If the security agreement succeeds, if Israel committed to it, and if the Syrian side committed to all the terms of any agreement that may be concluded later, this could pave the way for a second phase of discussions on a comprehensive peace, but without compromising Syria's legitimate claim to the occupied Golan Heights.
It is important to underscore that recently, according to Israeli intelligence, an Arab neighboring country was encouraged by another Arab neighbor to make peace with Israel, and when the time is convenient, to scrap the peace treaty and re-engage Israel in war. Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News, which is made possible by the generosity of our viewers. If you're blessed by our productions and would like to help support TV7 Israel, which operates as a nonprofit, you can donate via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Please keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hassan, wishing you an Erev Mevorach, and God willing, until our next update, Shalom from Jerusalem.